So if you've stumbled upon this video, then you're probably wondering, is van life right for you? After all, why wouldn't you want to live the van life? You get to bring your house on the road with you on adventures. You get to park it in incredible locations. You get to be immersed in nature, meet other like-minded people doing the same thing as you, and the list goes on. It's a good life. It's a life filled with adventure, filled with fun, filled with freedom. And in this video, I'm not trying to bash van life. I'm just trying to give you the other side of van life that a lot of people don't talk about. Just like everything, there's a flip side to van life. It's not just those perfectly curated Instagram reels, and it's also not for everyone. So let's talk about that. If you're new here, my name is Kristen, and for 5 years, I lived in a 1976 31-foot vintage Airstream that my husband and I gutted and re-renovated. And then 2 years after remodeling it, we remodeled it again after having our daughter. Add a pup to the mix and you have our adventurous family of four living on a home on wheels. Together we traveled multiple times across North America, visiting some of the most incredible destinations with our Airstream. Then at the beginning of 2022, we shipped our Airstream to Costa Rica, where we're currently putting the finishing touches on our Airstream jungle home, where our Airstream will forever live. The Airstream isn't the only vehicle we've lived in as a family. We also spent time living in a traditional 25-foot motorhome, which we really enjoyed. The truth is, I love having a tiny house on wheels, which is why next summer we've been talking about purchasing either a van or a short bus. To help narrow down our choice, we recently rented a Class B camper van to test the van life waters. And while it was a wonderful experience, it also made us realize why we don't want to buy a van. Like I said, this video isn't meant to bash van life. We really did enjoy it, but our experience living in a van gave us some insight as to the downsides of living in a van, especially full-time, and why we wouldn't necessarily want to. So if you're thinking of purchasing your own van, take into consideration these points that I'm about to share with you to see if it will make or break your decision. Because your van is your home and your vehicle, you have to go everywhere with it. What I loved about the Airstream is we had our truck and our Airstream. So the truck pulled the Airstream, we would find a parking spot, we would set up, we would detach the truck, and then we could use the truck and go grocery shopping or run a fast errand. And maybe I wanted to do that, and Sia and our daughter and our pup wanted to stay home and do something else, and we could do that. It was easy to do that. With a van, either everyone's going together doing everything, or you're leaving someone somewhere without a vehicle, without a house, and I didn't like that part of it. We also had to tear down and set up many more times than we did with our Airstream. There is very little storage space, and the more living things you pack into a van, the less storage space you're gonna have. I think if you're a solo person doing van life, you have a great amount of storage space and room. And if you're a couple doing it, it's definitely manageable. Then you add in kids and a pet, and things become very tight. It didn't feel comfortable, it didn't feel homey. I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this video, Comfy. Although I'm discussing the downsides of van life, I'm very pro tiny house on wheels living, as you've already seen. I've spent time in many tiny houses, and actually can't see myself living a life without some kind of home on wheels. After all, I did ship my 200 square foot Airstream to the jungle in Costa Rica, where I'm going to live in it. Whichever tiny house I'm living in, one of the most important features to me in any tiny space is a functional kitchen. I want the luxuries of what you'll find in a normal kitchen, but with appliances that are made specifically for tiny spaces, and that's exactly what Comfy provides. Their appliances are trendy, practical, and fit into tight spaces. They have portable mini dishwashers, 3-in-1 toaster ovens, and even compact retro fridges like this one. On top of looking really cool, this 3.3 cubic foot fridge has features like a mini freezer, adjustable legs, and removable shelving racks. The inside is composed of a food-grade environmental material that keeps food fresher longer, a temperature thermostat, and an automatic closing door, which I know personally we could benefit from. This same fridge also comes in an even smaller size, so you have options. We've already incorporated their appliances into our Airstream jungle home, and we're going to do the same for our next tiny home on wheels. So if you're looking for good quality, compact appliances for your tiny space, be sure to head on over to the Comfy website and check it out. I will link them in the description box below. Now back to the video. With our Airstream, we would tidy it up at the end of each day. But with the van, we were tidying up every hour. Every time someone did a new activity, you had to immediately clean up after, because if you didn't, it just looks so cluttered. You'd start tripping over things. There's a lot more regular tidying and cleaning that you have to do living the van life. No room for guests, which we enjoy once in a while. Listen, we had my mom stay with us in our 200 square foot Airstream for 3 months, and it was manageable, but barely. In a camper van, there would be no way. It wouldn't go down very well. If you have to bring your van in for a repair, you have to leave your home and your vehicle, so you don't have either while that is happening. And with a lot of these vans, like the Mercedes or the VWs, especially the vintage ones, it can take a long time to not just find a place for someone to repair it, someone that knows what they're doing, but also then to get the part that you need. It could take weeks or even months where you will be without a vehicle or a home. If you're thinking of doing van life as a family, we have found that once your child gets to a certain age where they are moving around a lot and want to play, and a van is just, there's not enough space for them to do that. Now, of course, we spend most of our time outside. That's part of van life, is to be outside as much as possible. But on those rainy days or late at night or early mornings, on those types of days or a particular part of the day, it didn't take long for us to feel restless or stir crazy and just want to get out of the van. And I want my home to feel comfortable and enjoyable. And like with our Airstream, we could easily spend full rainy day inside and it was enjoyable, and there was plenty to do and places and to move around and do different things, all 4 of us, and not feeling claustrophobic or like there wasn't enough space. Our 4-year-old had a designated space in the Airstream that was hers. It was her room and had her toys, her stuff, where she can go and she could play, and we wouldn't get in her way, she wouldn't get in our way. In the van, she didn't have that space, so we were like cooking food and she was like coloring, and we're basically in the same spot because there isn't much room, and that can be dangerous, you know, a child near a hot stove coloring on the ground, not the ideal situation. The washroom situation is not ideal. Our camper van had a toilet and a shower, but it was in the middle of the van and we all heard each other. There was no way to have any type of privacy when going to the washroom. Personally, if I were renovating a van, I would only include a toilet. I wouldn't put a shower inside. I would do an outdoor shower, something that like attached the back of the door of the van so I could just like open it up and put a curtain up and have an outdoor shower. Routine. If you are more than one person living in a van, you are now officially on the same routine, because once someone wakes up, it's kind of hard not to hear them when they're in the kitchen that's like a foot away from the bed making coffee. You get that smell, immediately wakes you up. You hear the toilet, the brushing of the teeth, anything. And especially if you have a child, you're definitely all getting up at the same time. In the Airstream, my husband and I were actually able to sleep in, one of us, well, the other one was with our daughter, and we could be in the kitchen making breakfast with our daughter while the other person's sleeping, and it was fine. Like, you didn't really hear them. You could always use earplugs, of course, even in a van, but I personally had a hard time getting more sleep when everyone else was up in the van versus the Airstream. The downsides that I just mentioned can apply to anyone thinking about doing van life, whether you're solo, a couple, or a family, but I think they apply more so to those of you who are doing it with more than 2 living things. It's the lack of personal space that affected me the most. So if you are someone who needs personal space and there's going to be several of you living in a van, maybe rethink that decision and choose something else, like an RV or a short bus or a full bus, or there's so many different options for houses on wheels. So don't just think van, that's the only way to go. Now our next move is to test out short bus living. We don't want a full-on bus, we want a shorter version, because I think that is a nice amount of space. Having been in the van and then the Airstream, I think having this vehicle that we will use, a few months out of the year to go on adventures, I think it'll be the perfect amount of space for our family of 4. Now I'm curious to know, what stage are you at on your van life journey? Are you someone who has been thinking about doing the van life and you just haven't decided quite yet? Are you thinking of purchasing a van that has already been converted or converting one yourself? Would it be you living in the van solo, or are you going to be doing it with someone else? Share the details in the comment section below. I cannot wait to hear from you. And if you like this video, be sure to check out the interview I did with the duo at Exploring Alternatives about van life, so you can get more insight to those who have experience living in a van. They are awesome. They've been doing it for years, so they have a lot of insight. Go check that out. And if you're looking for inspiration for your road trip, be sure to check out these incredible destinations across the US you have to visit. And I'll see you in the next video.